Hi, welcome back. We are in the Getting Started section, lecture 2. In the previous lecture, we stopped on this slide. Now, in this lecture, we want to go a little bit more details into some of the context for the course, which will help as we move forward and deeper into execution. Now, this demo is mostly going to be about the README file that is present at the root of the project. Now, let's switch to the Visual Studio Code and go through the content a little bit deeper. So as you can see, this is my Visual Studio Code. I'm connected to the project or the repository Elasticsearch OpenSearch. Now you'll find here square braces SSH Ubuntu. You'll find the square braces and the machine name whenever you connect to a remote instance. We will talk about how our course environment is set up, how do we connect to a remote instance in the next section, installation and configuration. For now, let's go and read the README which is present at the root of the folder. You can do an open preview. And let's go through this a little bit deeper. So some of the prerequisites for the course we already discussed in lecture 1. Let's go through why Elasticsearch references. As you can see, I have a folder named Elasticsearch for relative context. That's because OpenSearch started as a fork of Elasticsearch. Now, if you are coming from a background of working with Elasticsearch, there is a very high probability that you will be considered for open search projects or open search jobs that involve migrating from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch. And hence we have used Elasticsearch. What is the motivation for me for authoring this course? Frankly, there are many Elasticsearch courses online, and it is a pretty mature platform across the board. For example, you could search for top 25 enterprise companies using Elasticsearch on Google or Perplexity, and you can see some of the very big enterprise, small, medium startups. As I said, across the board, companies use Elasticsearch. It is also interesting to note that Oracle switched from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch for their PeopleSoft search capabilities. There's also a fact that clouds have changed the way software licensing incentives and model structures in the world exist. So a question keeps occurring, why keep paying purely for software licenses? Because you anyways have to pay a premium for support, skills, and large-scale needs like data center infrastructure, AI models. OpenSearch is an Apache licensed model, and hence you do not have to pay for the licensing of the software and using it and deploying it either on a single node or as a distributed system. You already gave the most precious asset data by ingesting it into the search platform. So why do you still want to pay additional for authorization and authentication, which is represented by these two UI code and other commoditized software pieces? So you want to reduce it, and OpenSearch helps you reduce that. OpenSearch is relatively new, and you can almost count the number of courses available out there. I have used both, and I believe there is a very good market space for OpenSearch to capture. So these are some of the motivations why I'm doing this course. We already discussed about the organization of the course. We will go through in another demo about each folder and the contents inside each folder and how does it relate to our course navigation. I do want to highlight this piece, documentation. The course also provides an automated script for generating your own static website, and you can serve it on any server you want, and you can search back for references and all the learnings you had during the course. So in this case, I have used a template using Markdown wiki, and this is how it looks. There will be a demo anyways walking you through this. All of the automated scripts for generating the static website are also present in the same repository. I've referred to the mermaid diagrams before. Mermaid diagrams help convert code to a visual representation and a flow. The tool itself is very versatile in terms of generating flow diagrams, class diagrams, sequence diagrams, and so on. In our case, we have used flow diagrams only. And so some of the mermaid diagrams look like this. We already discussed about the hardware, tools, and software. From the overall student environment or the course environment perspective, this is how we would be setting up our environment. On the rightmost side, you have your server. OpenSearch is installed, configured, and maintained in a Docker environment that sits inside another virtual machine. The virtual machine could be on your local Wi-Fi, either a bare metal or another virtual machine, or it could be in the cloud like AWS, Azure, or Google, or any other cloud provider. We will be walking you through an example of setting it up on AWS EC2 instance, and the same steps should apply for any virtual machine as long as you are able to connect via SSH. From a client side, it could be your own laptop, which could be a Mac, Windows, or a Linux. Inside the client machine, our main interface and graphic user interface is going to be Visual Studio Code, and then we'll be using Chrome as our browser. And so on the left side, this is the student, that is you accessing the client, and then the client communicates with the server to execute all of the instructions on the server. Now you could execute all of this OpenSearch in a Windows environment as well, as long as you have Docker runtime. It doesn't matter. Windows can also work totally. I've executed about 50% of the scripts on Windows, but all 100% of my scripts are executed on a Linux machine. This course is going to have Linux as the server. But if you're highly motivated to use only Windows, you're welcome to reach out and I'll help it with you. Some of the VS Code extensions that we have used are already listed in this document here. Let's open this up. These are all the list of VS Code extensions. Now you could take each of these, go to the extensions icon here and install one by one manually, or you could automate the execution, and we have provided you the code for this. It is up to you how you want to execute this, depending on what your client machine is. If it is a Mac or a Linux, you could use this command, assuming you have a bash shell. If it is a Windows, you could use, if it is a PowerShell, execute this command, and if it is a Windows command prompt, you could use this. Now, some of the gotchas that I have noticed, again, we'll refer to this when we do the installation and configuration, is you might get a permission denied, and so you have to execute this to fix it. And then when the first time you run a notebook, you might see this pop up, and so you just have to click install for that. Okay, so with that said, let's stop this lecture for here, and in the next lecture we'll go into the details of the folder organization and some of the other features that we want to before we get into deep diving into the tutorial.